Welcome to the Seize the Day weekly podcast, your connection to all things cruising, powered by Travel with Brigitte.
Thank you for joining us on the Seize the Day cruise show, powered by the cruise experts at Travel with Brigitte. We're Carla and Julie, and we are so glad you're here. And I want to remind you that we're here for you. So if you have any comments, any questions, you can always post them in the comments below, or you can email us too at bookings@travelwithbrigitte.com. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the casino on the cruise ship, to gamble or not to gamble on a cruise ship. Carla, we know that we really can't give blanket information that applies to every cruise line. But on this topic, what would you say varies like from cruise line to cruise line to cruise line as far as the casinos go?
So a few things are going to vary. One is going to be whether or not they even have a casino. So some more popular cruise lines that you might recognize, like Disney or even Viking, they're not going to have casinos on most of their ships, if any of their ships. You also have some cruise lines that are, specifically Europe-based, cruise lines like Marella, where gambling isn't so much a part of their culture, isn't really how they spend their time, their fun adult time. So they don't even put casinos into their ships. It's not a thought that they have. You also are going to vary on whether or not the casino's open at all hours. Some casinos will have it's only in the evening, or all cruise lines leaving the U.S. they do have to enter into international waters before they even open up the casino. But sometimes they will have different hours throughout the day, even when you have your sea days and port days as well.
And I know some of them, like Vegas, some of them now give free bar drinks while gambling. Tell us about that.
So sometimes, again, it's very dependent on the cruise line. If you're actively there, at a table or at a slot machine, yes, they might have the complimentary drinks, but most cruise lines, it's actually going to be dependent on your status with them. So I have clients that they've reached a certain status with, their casino habits, and they don't have to pay for a drink on the entire ship.
Wow.
Yeah.
They get that whole drink package, huh? That's great.
It is. And then you have your others that, yes, as long as they're within the casino, then they will receive their free drinks. And then if you're a lower status, if you're at a table or if you're at a machine, you might get a free drink. But if you go up to the actual casino bar, you're probably still going to be charged.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. So hopefully they have good service coming around then if you're going to be getting free drinks, right?
Right.
Is there anything else that you can think of before we go in and talk to our guest today?
No, I think we're going to have a great special guest that has a lot more insight with gambling and the way the casinos work on the cruise ships.
The question, should you double down by gambling on a cruise ship? Our guest today regularly does gamble on cruise ships, but says there are advantages and disadvantages that you need to consider. Augie Grant has looked at this issue from all angles. You look pretty festive today.
Well, I'm ready to cruise again.
Awesome. Well, Augie, thank you for taking time away from your family to enlighten us on your experiences with gambling on a cruise ship, because I know you've done that for a while. Okay, so let's start with, should we or shouldn't we gamble on the ship? How can we decide if that's right for us?
Well, the first consideration is, can you afford it? Keep in mind, like any other entertainment experience, gambling costs money. It's rare that people actually win. It can happen. But if you go into any type of gambling, especially the type of gambling that you have on a cruise ship, expecting to win, it's not going to happen. So you got to say, how much fun do I want to have and how much do I want to budget for it? And if you have the fun and you don't exceed your budget, it's a good value. And once in a while, you hit a jackpot and it becomes really worthwhile. I had this happen on a a cruise back in February. Sat down at a video poker machine and got the right cards lined up, and a minute later was a jackpot of $1,600. So I had to stop and do the paperwork. We'll talk about the paperwork in a second. But I did manage to give a lot of that back too. But that's okay, because it's fun. There's a little bit of a thrill. But you have to remember, the only reason the cruise ships put the casinos in there is they make money from the casinos. So that's the very first thing you have to know is you can't expect to win. But
I talked to a cruise ship captain one time, the one that was the captain on my honeymoon, and he said that, I'm sorry, it was the doctor that I talked to. He said that the captain gets a percentage of all the winnings. And it's so much that the way they check it is by weighing it. And that is the highest income on the cruise ship, is the money that comes in from gambling.
Yeah, the weighing is what they used to do until they went to cashless systems. That's the biggest change over the last 20 years in any casino is you don't use coins anymore. It's all paper. The denominations are usually in coins, and the pennies in the slot machines at least are the most popular. But they actually pull the cash out. It's electronic cash. They'll pull, if you want to put cash in, you can, but they'll pull it off your credit card, or you can charge it to your room. And that's where you have to be real careful on a cruise ship, is you don't want to charge too much to your room, because at the end of the trip, the same way you charge up your drinks and your excursions and anything at the gift shop, the casino bill comes due too.
Could be a big surprise.
Yeah. Well, that's why, again, if you're going to gamble, you set a budget. Now, let's go with the big advantage. Before we get to the specifics, the big advantage of gambling on a cruise ship is the cruise lines know this is a high profit area. And if they know that you're going to be spending time in the casino, they're probably going to give you offers for discounted rooms or even free rooms. Last cruise I was on was a free room. We paid extra to upgrade. When I say free, it's put it in air quotes, you have to pay the port taxes. It's not completely free. You have to still get to the port, but you get heavily discounted rooms if they know you're going to be gambling. And a lot of that depends upon how full the ship is. If they're doing a sailing and the rooms are not sold out or the cabins are not sold out, what they'll do is they'll send out offers to the people who are on their list. One particular cruise line sends me, I get a flyer about once a week saying, here's what we have to offer you. And usually it's the Caribbean cruises, but past few weeks it's been the Alaska cruises. But they've had everything from Bermuda to Mediterranean, Grand Cayman, you name it. So they give offers based upon how they sold the rooms. So that can be a big advantage. So what you want to do is make sure that your play is tracked. So what you have, as you have with most Las Vegas casinos, you have a card that you carry around with me. Here's one that I have. That one is actually from Caesars that I use at the different Caesars properties around the country. On the cruise ship, your room key can end up being a card, and that makes it easy because they can track your play. They can also charge if you want to not carry around the cash and just take a charge to your card. You can do that. So, but if you're not having your play tracked, there's no way they can know whether you deserve the free room. They also
how do you get that to happen? How do you get them to track it?
Oh,
I don't think they ever track me.
Yeah, by putting the card in when you're playing.
Oh, okay. I play tables.
Right.
So,
and that's where if you're playing tables, what you do is present the card when you sit down and they register your play.
Okay.
But keep in mind this gives us a good chance to talk about the different games you have on the ships, because you have two broad categories. You have the table games and you have the electronic games. The casinos make a lot more money off the electronic games. That's the slot machines and the video poker. The table games they make money off of, but not as much. So they'll track it, but it takes a lot more play at the blackjack table to qualify you for perks than it does playing the slot machines. The other thing is when you're playing the slot machines or the video poker, you earn points for every game, every individual game you play. And when you reach a certain number of thousands of points, that translates into free play, $5 or $10 in free money. So they have a system. And again, the more lucrative the game is for the ship, the more they're going to give back to you. So your table games, they have, on most cruise ships, they have similar variety of what you find in any casino. Obviously, blackjack and craps and roulette, but some of them also have Caribbean stud and pai gow, other types of table games. The thing that's different on a cruise ship on the table games is the odds. For example, when you're playing blackjack, if you're playing the best game you can play, a blackjack will pay 3-2. So if you have a $10 bet, a blackjack pays 15. But on a cruise ship, usually it's what they call a 6-5. So the blackjack on a $10 bet will only pay $12. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it does make a difference over the long run in terms of how much the casino keeps. Same thing on roulette. Your best roulette wheels have 36 numbers and a 0, so 37 total. But if you add another 0, so you have a 0 and a double 0, then the house has doubled its edge. And some of the casinos, some of the worst ones, have gone to 3 zeros. So now you have 39 numbers. So your odds of winning go down because they're not changing the payouts. So wow. Those are the two things you want to look at when you go the blackjack. Does it pay 3-2 or does it pay 6-5? And that may also depend upon the denomination. If you're playing the lowest limit, $5 or $10, it's probably going to pay the 6-5 for the blackjack. But if you're playing much higher, $25 or $100 a hand, then they may have a table that pays 3-2. So sometimes it's worth it to wager a higher amount. So if you get the blackjack, it'll pay off more. So those are the things you look at. On the roulette wheel, you look at, is it a single 0 or double 0, or do they have 3? And again, avoid the ones with 3 like crazy.
What about the rules? I'm sorry, are the rules any different? Like I sit down for blackjack and I know that there's like an extra circle up there that people put bets on that I don't, because I don't understand what it is. And I don't play if I don't understand. But right. I've never seen it before.
Yeah, that's just an extra bet where you can bet that you're going to get a certain type of hand, or bet that you're going to win a certain number of hands in a row. It's just a proposition bet. The odds on those are terrible. You're doing the right thing. They vary. The extra bets vary on every type of game, but they're all designed so that the casino can get more money off you from every bet you make.
Mm-hmm.
So you're making, in terms of preserving your money, you're making the right move. But if you want to have some fun once in a while, throwing a buck up there, and if it pays off, you get a lot more money. It just, again, if you got an extra $1 to throw away, you put it there, and usually it's going to lose, but once in a while, you cash in.
You mentioned earlier how you won, $1,600, in one of the games, right? So you had to do the paperwork, which basically means you're going to pay taxes on it, right?
Yes.
So here's what I don't understand, okay? When you leave the cruise ship, say you leave out of Galveston or Miami, right? You have to wait until you're 12 miles out in international waters before they can even open the casino, right?
That's correct.
If you're in international waters, why are you paying taxes to the U.S.?
Because as a U.S. citizen, any of your income is subject to U.S. taxes. So It doesn't matter whether it comes on a cruise ship, or let's say you go to Monte Carlo. You happen to have a trip to France, you go to Monte Carlo and you play there. If you win big, you have to pay taxes. Or
Okay.
perhaps in one of your businesses, you do a consulting trip overseas. I used to travel to a university in Ukraine every year to teach a class. And I would be paid by them in cash and, again, reported on the taxes because that's the way the U.S. tax law works. If you have income, you're supposed to pay taxes. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Most cruise lines follow the U.S. tax law in terms of when you get what they call a hand pay jackpot. And there's a threshold for that. Where a slot machine or video poker, it has to be $1,200 or more. For a poker jackpot, it has to be $5,000 or more. But for a single bet, anything that pays more than 300 to 1 odds, and it's more than 600. And now I'm getting into details. Let me stress, I'm not an attorney. I'm not an accountant. I'm not giving any tax advice. I'm just talking like, I'm just talking like a person who has been through it before. But most of the cruise lines, when they go to pay off that jackpot that exceeds that $1,200 threshold for slot machines, they'll ask for ID and your social security number, and then they'll give you a W-2G. It's a tax form, looks kind of like a 1099 tax form if you've ever had one of those. And then you hang on to it. And then when you go to do your taxes, you actually input that information or give it to your accountant. But that's considered income. Now, the good news is you can deduct your gambling losses, but only if you itemize your deductions. So if you're taking a standard deduction, those winnings that you get are completely taxable. But if you're itemizing deductions, then you can deduct your gambling losses up to the amount of your winnings. So the tax laws are very specific. They're not hard to deal with, but it is something to know about, that if you do get one of those really big jackpots, then most cruise lines will give you the paperwork. And by the way, when they give you the W-2G, they're also sending a copy of that to the IRS. Now, that's not all cruise lines. Some cruise lines don't do that, and then it's up to you to keep track. But in any case, when you win a big jackpot, you do have a tax liability.
Do you bother to calculate and keep up with your losses just in case you win big?
Oh yeah, that's something the IRS requires. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Then, and if you're ever audited and you've taken a deduction for your losses, they'll want to see what's the deduction based on, and they'll want written evidence. But if you can show, here's where I did withdrawals, here's how much cash I took on the trip, and you have a record that they can look at and say, oh yeah, I can see on these dates you went here, you played this amount. It doesn't have to be bet by bet, but just enough of a general summary so that you can show, yeah, I've kept track and I know how much money I lost.
So when you get rated on a cruise ship to the point where they're going to start sending you offers, is that for the entire cruise line and maybe
Yes.
even the other cruise lines that are in the same company?
Usually that's the case. In fact, it goes beyond that. Almost every cruise line has a relationship with one of the big Las Vegas casinos. So, for example, if you're on MGM Grand and you qualify as I don't know. I'm not very high on that, so I don't know what their high level is. But they will send you you will get cruise offers too, and you can present your proof that you have an MGM card at that level. The one that I have is Palace Station. I happen to be at something called the Platinum level. It's not really high, but it's enough where I get free rooms whenever I go to Las Vegas. But also, I get a free cruise every year on Princess Cruise Lines. So, and Caesars has a similar relationship with Princess or Carnival or Cunard. So, having the card, again, I love here, I can show the card. Having the card to show, you'll also get the offers because they work together. So, in answer to your question, if they know what you're doing, they keep track in the casino, and then they will give you either a mailer or an email. In my case, for some reason, the line I work with most is Celebrity, and I get these mailers about once a week. But I also get them from Carnival and other cruise lines, and they tell me, here are your offers. And, we can go on these days for an inside cabin, and this cruise will get you a veranda cabin, etc. And the more you play, the higher you go. Now, if you're a frequent cruiser, if you're doing more than 4 or 5 cruises a year, every cruise line has a different levels that you can qualify for. And they usually have them as like bronze, silver, gold,
right,
or they go
right. Loyalty points.
Yeah, exactly.
Loyalty levels. Yeah.
Exactly. And the more points you have, the better cruise you qualify for.
Okay, so they will combine your loyalty level with the fact that you're gambling for the offer.
Right. Well, the fact that there's a special loyalty level just for the gambling that keeps track of how many points you have played and so how much time you put in the casino that year, and it resets every year.
I see. So is there anything else that you'd like to share that I didn't think to ask?
Yeah, we go back to where are the best odds on the cruise ship. I want to make a point that if you want the absolute best odds, the absolute best chance of breaking even, never going to say the best chance of winning, best chance of breaking even is at the craps table when you take a bet on the pass line and you do something called odds, where you increase, after you get a point, you increase the amount of the bet. And if all of that is Greek to you, they'll explain it at the craps table. They love.
I just thought craps was like the hardest way. I thought craps was the lowest way to win.
It's no craps it's the easiest way to break even that you have by taking just what's called the pass line bet, which means when you put a bet down, when the dice are thrown, if it's 7 or 11, you win. If it's a 2, 3, or 12, you lose. But if it's anything else, like it's a 6, that becomes what they call a point. And then you have to roll another 6 and you win. But if you roll a 7 before you roll a 6, you lose. So anyway, but
you lost me, but that's okay. That's all right.
It sounds complicated, but they will do the training on the ship. But once you have that bet, the initial bet for the 6, you can add to the bet something called, don't put it on top, but you put it behind, and that pays off on the true odds. So it doesn't pay you just, if you're betting $10, it won't pay you just $10. It will pay you if the odds of getting the 6 are 3-2, it'll pay you 15. Again, I don't know off the top of my head what the true odds are, but I can tell you, that's the best bet. In blackjack, that's one of the easiest games to play. Again, if you're at a game that pays 3-2 for a blackjack, your odds are pretty good that you're going to at least break even. But if they're playing that a blackjack only pays 6-5, it's a lot harder. Then the next one is the video poker. And the neat thing about video poker is you can actually look on the screen of the video poker. It has the amount that it pays for each hand. And you can see what the winning percentage is if you've played any video poker in the past. And I play enough of that where I actually can look at a machine and know, is this a good or a bad machine? But typically, the house edge is only 2% to 5%. And it can be as low as 1% depending on the game. On the cruise ships, it's closer to 5%. Then the worst bet of all is the slot machine. Because in the slot machine, the house edge can be as much as 15%. So that means for every $100 you put in, they're going to only pay out $85. The whole point is the slot machines can give you big jackpots, but they don't happen that often.
Well, I've heard 2 things. One is that they like in Vegas, they put the slot machines that are gonna pay better at the front door. I don't know if that's true, but that way, as you're walking by, you see that it's paying off. Okay. And the other one is that on cruise ships, for the same reason, they set it where you're more likely to win on the first couple of days so that you'll come back every day throughout the whole cruise. So are those true?
No. In the casinos, the ones they put by the entrance are usually the higher denomination, and the higher denomination pays off a greater percentage. So if you're betting a dollar a spin, it's going to pay off a lot more often because they don't need to have as many. But if you're betting a penny machine, it's going to keep a lot more. So that's where the position comes in. But in terms of, to the best of my knowledge, and I've actually done a little bit of research on this, the best of my knowledge, they don't reset the odds on the machines. You're just as likely to win or lose on the first day as the last day. But if you think you're more likely to win the first day, then play the first day and don't play the last day. Because there's no harm in it. So I do want to stress there's one other category of game we haven't talked about, and that's a poker game. Not the video poker, but a live
like
poker
a real
where you're
back room.
Yeah, where you're saying, well, only it's not a back room. It's right out in the middle of the casino floor. It's a table that has usually anywhere from 6 to 9 seats, and you're playing against other players. And the neat thing about poker is that is a game where the skill and the luck are equal. So your odds of winning, if you're good at poker, are actually much better because you have to figure out, am I better than the other people sitting at this table? Because the house does keep what they call a rake. They take a little percentage of every pot. But if you're playing against people who are totally new at playing poker, don't really know the odds, don't know when to hold them and when to fold them, you can win more often. That's a lot of work, though. Good poker means knowing the odds and knowing how to read players. And you got to be in a game with somebody for, at least half an hour, maybe an hour, in order to see what all their tells are. But you can have a lot of fun at the poker table, and your money can last a lot longer.
So I've heard that for high rollers.
Yeah. I mean, the typical buy-in to sit at a poker table, the low are around $20. Typical is around $50. They have some games for the high rollers. So there are some games where you might have a $100, even a $500 to buy into the game. The other thing they do is they occasionally have tournaments where you pay one amount up front and you're playing against everyone. And on a cruise ship, it's usually going to be one table. In Vegas, you might have 4 or 5 tables and everybody plays until somebody wins, and then they consolidate the tables. As you lose, once you've lost everything, you're out. So, and the amount you win is a function of how many people are playing. If you're really good at poker and you're really good at reading people, that can actually be the best odds. But that's one that it's a true game of skill.
I won a slot tournament on a cruise ship one time, and there were just 6 of us that had joined, and they were all from the singles table. It was just our table, and so we all knew each other and hung out together throughout the whole cruise. And I won $500, but it was just slots. I don't even know how well I knew how to play blackjack back then, but it was kind of cool. It was quite a surprise, but it was just pressing the button.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. As I say, as we start out by saying, the neat thing about the casinos, it's a way to have fun on the ship, especially on your day at sea. You want something to do in the middle of the afternoon. They'll have a tournament in the middle of the afternoon. And that in order to play, there's an amount you pay up front to be in the tournament. Once you pay that, you don't have anything else to risk. And then you have the excitement of how much can I win? Can I win more than the other people I'm playing against? So that's a real good way to limit the amount that you're going to lose. And again, think of it as Am I paying more or less for this than I'd pay for any other experience? Whether it's a snorkeling experience or wine tasting or seeing a movie, the
So
costs are comparable.
bottom line is we have to decide if it's worth the entertainment value, even if we lose. Because if you lose, it doesn't usually mean you lose your shirt. I mean, you can. I have, but my shirt was only $25 that day, which is really nice. But I mean, you could go in with $100 and leave with $50, and then was it worth that $50 to have the fun? To me, a lot of times it is. Anyway, I want to thank you, Augie, for all your suggestions, and to remind everybody, he's not he's just a person who does it. So don't
just a cruise fan.
Not a lawyer, not a gambling expert, not a casino owner, so just, I'm not going to say take it with a grain of thought, but make your own decisions, okay?
Oh, take it with a grain of sand.
Yes, right. You look all ready to cruise yourself. So yeah, you're listening to the Seize the Day Cruise podcast powered by Travel with Brigitte, to talk about how we can get you deals, often unadvertised deals that are better than you can get for yourself without losing your loyalty benefits. Contact us at bookings@travelwithbrigitte.com. And if you are finding our content valuable, please click like and subscribe, and then also share it with someone who you'd like to go on a cruise with. And leave a comment below, because we just love to hear from you. Are you deterred from gambling now? Are you thinking it might be fun, even if it's the slots where you don't really have to know how? We're Carla and Julie. And on behalf of our producer, our guests like Augie today, and everyone here at Travel with Brigitte, till next week, seize the day.
You've been listening to the Seize the Day podcast, powered by Travel with Brigitte. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. And as always, feel free to ask us anything in the comments section. We love to hear from you. Or email us at bookings@travelwithbrigitte.com. Till next time, seize the day.